Hi friends. Today we are starting with our fall curriculum. So that means that our books are changing and you will no longer have leaflets because you are moving to these. These are fun little magazines and they have lots and lots of pages of activities and stories to add to our weekly children's church lessons. And so I'm hoping to be getting these to you as soon as possible. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue doing our story. Today's story, we are talking about a man named Abram and his wife named Sarah. So before we tell the story though, I have a quick question. Have you ever traveled anywhere? You know, I've been to several different places. I've been to South Carolina. I've been to Kansas and Colorado. I have been to Alaska. And I have also been to a country called Honduras, which is in Central America. If you know your world geography, you'll know where that's at. But I wonder if you've ever traveled anywhere. The reason why I'm asking is because the story of Abram and Sarah is about how God asked them to have faith in God and to travel to an unknown land where neither of them had ever been before. And Abram and Sarah both had faith that God knew what God was doing. And so Abram and Sarah followed God and had faith in God. And they moved. They left the country that they'd always been in and left to go to a new land. And so I'm just wondering if you've ever traveled before and what that was like, what your experience was like with traveling. So, as we have done for a while now, going to light our candle. If I can get, there we go. Just representing that you are with me and I'm with you and that I'm remembering you while we are unable to be together. All right, so what I want you to do is we're gonna open up with a prayer, a help me prayer is what this is called, a help me prayer. So I want you to take just a moment and we're all gonna close our eyes and we're gonna take 3 deep breaths. If you've ever done any kind of mindfulness activities or any kind of meditation or yoga, a lot of times an instructor will start out the class by asking you to take several deep breaths. And so we're going to start out by doing that this morning or today. And I will close us in prayer before we get started with our story. Okay? So let's close our eyes and breathe in God's love. And then breathe out God's love. Breathe in God's love. And breathe out God's love. And then one more time. Breathe in God's love. And breathe out God's love. God, help me to listen to you in the wind, in the rain, in the morning sunshine, and in the evening moonlight. Amen. So the fun thing about that prayer that I just shared with you is that it has motions. And I know some of y'all really like motions and dancing and things. And so I want to share those motions with you. So the first line is, God, help me to listen to you. And so when we say that, we're going to say, God, help me to listen to you. Just like you're trying to listen to somebody, you know, when you're hard of hearing, sometimes you have to kind of lean in and listen. So God, help me to listen as the wind, and we're going to go the wind, as the wind, or in the wind, and in the rain, in the morning sunshine, ooh, like you're stretching whenever you get out of bed, and then in the evening moonlight, like you're going to sleep, and amen. So let's practice that together. God, help me to listen to you in the wind, in the rain, in the morning sunshine, ooh, and in the evening moonlight. Amen. Great job. So keep those motions in mind because we're going to be coming back to that prayer over the next several weeks as we learn that together. So while I don't have a poster this month or for this curriculum for our new Bible verse, I want to or memory verse, I want to let you know that we do have a new memory verse. That memory verse comes from the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy. So Deuteronomy is kind of a big, big word, and it's really hard to spell too, but you don't have to worry about saying or spelling it. But that Bible verse is this. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." So, next week I'm going to have that up on a poster, and we are going to talk a little bit more about that verse. But for now, I want you to keep that in mind, that that's our Bible verse that we're going to be learning over the next several weeks and months. So, we also have a new storybook. This book is called All of Us. And so you're going to have included in your packet parts of this book inside of your packet with your magazine. So you won't have this whole book with you, but you will have parts of the stories. And so I'm going to read this story to you all, and I'm going to show you some pictures in just a moment. So this is called The Adventure Begins, Chapter 1. Abram, Sarah, and Abram's nephew Lot were living in Haran when Abram first heard from God. The Lord said to Abram, "Leave your country, your family, and your relatives, and go to the land that I will show you. I will bless you and make your descendants into a great nation. You will become famous and be a blessing to others. I will bless anyone who blesses you, but I'll also put a curse on anyone who puts a curse on you. Everyone on earth will be blessed because of you." Abram was 75 years old when the Lord told him to leave the city of Haran. He obeyed and left with his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions and slaves they had gotten while in Haran. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram went as far as the sacred tree of Moreh and a place called Shechem. The Canaanites were still living in the land at that time, but the Lord appeared to Abram and promised, "I will give this land to your family forever." Abram then built an altar there for the Lord. Abram traveled to the hill country east of Bethel and camped between Bethel and Ai, where he built another altar and worshipped the Lord. Later, Abram started out toward the southern desert. Abram, Sarah, and Lot continued to follow God's leading. They traveled through many lands, waiting for the promised blessing from God. So, what you're going to get in your packet are these 2 pages right here. So it's kind of like a little comic strip, and you can see the pictures, and it's a retelling of the story of Abram, Sarah, and Lot. So I will make sure that you all have copies of that for this, for the next part of our curriculum. And so, now that you've heard that story, let's reflect on that, just like we've always have with our stories. And so, I want you to close your eyes for just a second, and I want to ask you these questions. I wonder what it was like to travel, not knowing where you were going, because Sarah and Abram and Lot, they were just following what God had asked them to do. And so they were traveling without knowing exactly where they would end up going. So I wonder what it's like to travel and not know where you're going. I wonder how Abram knew that it was God who was talking to him. That's an interesting question, isn't it? Sometimes it could just be the voice in our head, but maybe that voice in your head is also God. Interesting. And let's look at this comic. I wonder... in this picture right here, I wonder what Abram is thinking about in that picture. And then, let's see, in this picture up here, I wonder what it was like to arrive in a new land where they did not know anyone. Could you imagine? And maybe some of you have moved into a new place and not known who was around you. Maybe you started at a new school and not known who your new friends would be. Or maybe you had new neighbors after moving into a new home and not known those people and been afraid or nervous, and that's okay. But I wonder what Abram and Sarah and Lot were feeling when they moved into a whole new town. So, that's part of God's story, right? Those questions that I want you to think about. But let's add a new facet to this story. I wonder if we can add our story into this, like your personal story. So, I wonder how you would feel if you had to leave all of your friends and family and move to somewhere new. That'd be kind of anxiety provoking, right? You'd be scared and nervous, probably a little sad because you'd have to leave your friends and family. Next, I wonder how you follow God. What do you do to show that you follow God? And then finally, Abram, the man in the story, one of the men in the story, built altars to worship to God. So, what are some ways in which we can worship God? You know, you can sing to God, you can pray to God, you can talk to your friends about God, you can talk to your family members about God, you can thank God for all the things that God has created in our world. These are all wonderful ways in which we can worship God. All right, so in these magazines that you're going to be getting soon, there is on page number 2, this is titled God is with Us. So when you get this magazine, I would love it for you to read these stories about these two different people, about what they're going through and how God is with them. And then I want you to think about how God is also with you during these difficult times. Okay, so we are coming to the end of our time together. Unbelievably so, I know. But I want you to take the hand of someone who is sitting beside of you, or if you're by yourself listening to this or watching this video, then you can hug yourself, as always, right? And I am going to give us a closing prayer at this point. All right, so let's close our eyes, bow our heads, and pray together. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to repeat the words after me, okay? So let's bow our heads. Thank you for guiding us, God. Just as you guided Abram and Sarah, help us know that you are always with us, wherever we go. Amen. All right, folks, friends, I'm so glad you joined us today. I'm really excited about the next few stories that we're going to be learning about. Next week, we're going to learn about Isaac. Not my Isaac, but Isaac, who is Abram and Sarah's son. He is the promised child that God promised to Abram and Sarah. And so I hope that you will come back next week and watch this upcoming lesson on Isaac. All right, folks, I look forward to seeing you soon, in person or on camera, whichever one. But I'm so glad you joined us today. I'll see you next time. Bye.